Right, today on this video, we're going to be rating and ranking every single Premier League team start to the Premier League season. Now, there's so many different avenues. Everyone's going to be going 3 games. It's too soon. No, there's still loads to talk about. It's been a very exciting, controversial, and lots have gone on already this season. Let's get straight into this. We're going to start off with Arsenal. Now, straight away, they currently find themselves 4th in the league. They've won 2 games and drawn 1, and that draw came up against Brighton. Now, a lot of people already have jumped on and gone, no, Arsenal, they've let City win the league. It is literally 3 games in. They've had a solid start to the season. I'd say it's been pretty impressive. And to still get a draw, or going into the game, if they said to get a draw at home against Brighton, you've gone, not too great. But I think you've got to put perspective and kind of look at it and kind of apply what went on in the game to this matter. And you think, do you know what, actually getting a draw against Brighton, considering you only had 10 men, I think is an impressive start to the season. They've scored 5 goals and only conceded 1. Got the second best defensive record in the league so far this season. So I'm going to say they've got off to a good start. They've got off to a very solid start. I think it's impressive signs yet again for Arsenal. They kind of carried on where they left off last season and are still unbeaten. Now we're getting on to Aston Villa. So Aston Villa currently find themselves 7th in the league. They have won 2 and lost 1 game, and the 1 game that they lost came against Arsenal. So I think so far, I think you said it's a very impressive season yet again. Like Arsenal carried on where they were last season, because I think realistically going into the Arsenal game, yes, I know they beat Arsenal. They did the double over them last season, but they're not going to be on Arsenal's level. Arsenal have been very, very impressive. So I think it's been a good, solid start to the season. Impressive signs. Have been scoring some nice goals as well. So they've scored 4, conceded 4. Probably not been as defensively as good as they were last year, but I still think they've got off to a good start. So I'm going to say they're in good. Next, we have got Bournemouth. So Bournemouth have won 1 and drawn 2. Now, Bournemouth have had a weird start. So their game against Everton, considering all things that went on going into the game, I think they hadn't had a shot until the 81st minute. Winning that game was absolutely mental, but they've not had the easiest of starts to the season, playing against Nottingham Forest away, then against Newcastle at home and Everton. So I think I'd say they've had a good start, but do you know what? Would it be good? I'd say they've had an okay start to the season and kind of carried on where they left off last year. Yes, 8th is a good start, but I don't think they've had the toughest of starts. It's not been a really difficult start to the season, but I wouldn't say, oh my word, they've really been stand out, but they've got they've got a really difficult games coming up, some really good tests for them. So I think that will really decide how they are, because I think going into this season, I think Iraola, we saw exactly what he could do, and they did really well last season. So I think kind of perspective and what we expect from this team has changed. I think they're a mid-table side, so where they are now is currently where we'd really expect them to be, around that mid-table. Next, then we have got Brentford. Now, Brentford have got 2 wins and 1 loss so far in the Premier League. It's a very good start, and the win came against Southampton, which they were extremely impressive. Then they lost to Liverpool, which was expected, but then they beat Crystal Palace. So I'm going to say they've got off to an unreal start in the Premier League, because I think a lot of people, including myself, thought they were going to get relegated this season. I'm really worried for them. Kind of Tony going, yes, I know they didn't have Tony for a lot of last season, but I think kind of looking at it as a whole, you thought, wow, they haven't added to this squad, and their squad doesn't really impress me too much. But Thomas Frank just gets that team working. They've scored 5 goals and conceded 4. They've had a really great start to the season, 6th in the league. So yeah, I think they've been really impressive. I think really good signs for them, considering as well their big signing in Thiago is still injured. The fact that they're scoring and the fact that they're winning games is impressive. Now we're going to move on to Brighton. 2 wins and 1 draw so far this season. They currently find themselves in 3rd in the league. I'm going to put them at the top. I think they've been extremely impressive, and especially when you look at how difficult a start to the season. First game, Everton away, not an easy game. Yes, they won that game 3-0, and they absolutely battered Everton. If I'm honest, it should have been 6, maybe 7, maybe even 8. They were so impressive. Then in the second game, they beat Manchester United at home. And yes, Man United haven't been great, but it's still a great result. And then drawing away at Arsenal. I think it's just so impressive, considering, yes, De Zerbi did a great job for Brighton last season, but going into the end of the season, the form was absolutely awful. It was dreadful. And Hutzler has come into this new job. A lot of people are saying, is he too young? Is it too early? Kind of, is his way they're going to play? Is it going to work? But no, they've been absolutely immense. 7 points already this season, scoring 6 goals and only conceding 2. And that was a big thing last season. Going into last season, they couldn't keep a clean sheet. They kept on conceding constantly, but they've got off to a great start and defensively look so strong. So I've put them straight away in unreal. I've been really impressed by them. Next, we have got 11th place, Chelsea. Now, Chelsea have had a bit of a weird start to the season. First game of the season, I think you can kind of call a write-off. Home to Manchester City is a really difficult game. Then the second game against Wolves, which is not an easy game. They absolutely dominated that game, winning 6-2. Yes, in the first half, Wolves had some chances, but to put Wolves away the way they did in that second half was absolutely amazing. And Madueke has been incredible. And then drawing to Crystal Palace, Probably should have won that at home. I wouldn't say it's like an impressive result. Yes, Palace were great last season, but they've not got off to a great start this season. I kind of look at it and just think it's a little bit disappointed. I expect a little bit more from Chelsea so far. So I think I'd say poor. I think a lot of people say, it's a bit harsh. It's Maresca and things, but they've got a decent side. Even with the team that they've got, they should be doing better than 11th, and they should be having better results than 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. I think the Crystal Palace game they really should have won, especially going into that at home. I think they should be winning that. Next, we've got Crystal Palace, currently find themselves in 16th spot. Now, Crystal Palace is a really interesting one. A lot of people had Glasner's side to do really well this season, but they've started quite poorly. In 16th spot, they have won 0 games, drawn 1 and lost 2. And if you look at those 3 games that they've played, they drew against Chelsea, as I just said, away, which is a good result, but then they lost to West Ham away, and they lost to Brentford. They lost to West Ham at home, and they lost to Brentford away. So I'd say it's been a pretty poor start. I don't think it's been awful, because that result against Chelsea is a good one on reflection. You wouldn't expect to get a point, but I think in those first 3 games, you'd want more than just 1 point. So yeah, worrying signs for them so far. We kind of expected it with the likes of Elise and other boys going, and Joaquim Anderson, but yeah, hopefully they kind of turn it around, because there's some of the new signings maybe started to blend into that squad. Okay, then next we're talking about Everton. Now I'm going to go straight away. Everton's probably the easiest one. It's awful, and I think they've had probably the worst start of the season by any side, because if you look at it, the one thing you guarantee with Everton and guarantee with the Sean Dyche side, when kind of looking at it, looking in the past and historic wise, Sean Dyche sides don't concede goals the way they have been so far this season. Conceded 3 to Bournemouth, which is officially the worst the latest lead that a side has dropped from when the 2-goal lead. It was so ridiculous. The 87th minute conceded 3 goals to a side in Bournemouth that hadn't had a shot until the 81st minute, and kind of the goals that they conceded were absolutely dreadful. Players like Lewis Cook, who I think is 5'7", scoring his first Premier League goal, and it was a header as well. You kind of just really disappointed. Then they got absolutely battered away at Tottenham 4-0, and then they got battered first game of the season 3-0 to Brighton. So I say it's absolutely awful start. It's very toxic, and a lot of people are really tipping Sean Dyche to be the first manager to be sacked this season. I hope he doesn't, but yeah, it's worrying signs for Everton. And looking into their next games, let's have a look at their next games. They've got I'm on last season, so who cares? So I can't tell you who they've got next, because I'm looking at the wrong year. There we go. So next they've got Aston Villa, then they've got Southampton in the Cup, then they've got Leicester, Palace, Newcastle. So there's a nice run of games, Ipswich and Fulham. So you'd like to see, and you might like to think that they could turn it around by then, but I wouldn't say so at the moment. With the way they've been playing, it's worrying signs for them at the moment. So I'm going to put them straight in at awful. Next, we have got Fulham. So Fulham have lost 1, drawn 1 and won 1. But their games so far this season, they have played Man United opening game of the season away, then the second game where they beat Leicester at home, and then the third game they drew to Ipswich. So I think on reflection, I'd say it's an okay start to the season, especially with the fact that they've now become more of a vibes team under Marco Silva. They're kind of playing so many players in the 10. You've got Iwobi kind of floating around. You've got Traore, you have Pereira, and Emil Smith-Rowe. Like, it's a new side. There's a lot of new players with no Palhinha as well, who's probably been their best player in recent years, and players like Tim Ream. So I think okay start. Those results, not horrific. I think beating Leicester's a good result. Drawing to Ipswich probably isn't the best of results, but I don't think it's horrific. The fact that it's away as well. So I think overall, I think it's an okay start. It's nothing over the top. It's nothing dramatic. Like, I wouldn't be worried if I was a Fulham fan, but I wouldn't be over the moon. I don't think it's bad. Find themselves in 12th spot. Next, we've got Ipswich. They've got 1 point so far. They have lost 2 and drawn 1, and their games haven't been the easiest so far. So their opening game of the season lost 2-0 to Liverpool. Then they lost 4-1 to Manchester City, but then they drew against Fulham. And those games against Fulham, especially those at home, those are the games where you want to see them get results. So I'm going to put them in poor, even though I know it's like a difficult start to the season. Those games haven't been kind, but those games against Fulham are huge. Those kind of games, especially at home, are the kind of games where you really need to get your points on the board. So I don't think it's been awful, because as I said, the results, the fixtures haven't been too kind to them, but I'd expect a little bit more in those kind of games. That's where you need to get a win, but at least they're not losing to the likes of Fulham. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. I'd say poor. The way they've been playing, yes, I know a lot of people say, it's brave, and the way they went to Liverpool, I think it's naive to try and play like that against the likes of Liverpool, but getting a goal against Man City as well is a good achievement. So I'm going to say poor. Next, we have got Leicester City. Now, Leicester City have drawn 1 and lost 2, and their first 3 games have been against Aston Villa, where they were just sleeping for that 1 goal from the set piece. So I was a little bit disappointed in that. They also lost away to Fulham, and they drew at home to Tottenham. So really, out of all of those, I'd say The best result, obviously, is the draw against Tottenham, which no one really expected. But away against Fulham, you should be trying to get points. Again, I'm going to say it's poor, but it's better than Ipswich's results so far. But a little bit disappointing. But again, it's not the easiest of starts. And I think we kind of really, with a lot of these sides, and your likes of Ipswich's and your Leicesters and your Palaces and your Evertons and your Fulhams and your Bournemouths and sides that, and your Brentford, anyone really that you'd expect from 10th down. It's how they play against the teams in and around them. I think some of these kind of games, especially for Leicester playing against Villa and Tottenham so early on, it's not the easiest of starts. And I think that's where we'll really be able to work out how decent an outfit that team is. So next we have got Arne Slot's Liverpool. Arne Slot's Liverpool have been absolutely incredible, putting them straight in at number one. A lot of people said, oh, how will it all work out under Arne Slot? How will they cope without Jurgen Klopp? But they've gone 3 games scoring 7 goals and yet to concede a goal. And the way they dismantled Manchester United on the weekend was just absolutely ridiculous. I love the way he holds himself in the media. I really like how open he is, and I like the way he's been treating Trent Alexander-Arnold, taking him off on the 70th minute against Man United. It's kind of making a statement, like saying, I am the boss around here. I know the way you used to play. 3-0 against Man United away, 2-0 against Brentford at home, and then a 2-0 away win against Ipswich. They've just been dominant, and I really like the way they've been playing in the transition. And a lot of people spoke about the fact that they hadn't got a number 6, but the way they've been playing in the pivot with Gravenberch, and McAllister, and then Szoboszlai in the 10, it's just really seamlessly transitioned into this new era at Liverpool, and I think they've started really well. And I think, yes, Man United, I know people say, oh, it's not really a test. It is a test going away to Manchester United regardless. He's the first manager in 88 years to win his first Premier League away game at Manchester United, so I think that's a solid result. Next, we'll talk about Manchester City, who also find themselves top of the league, find themselves unbeaten and top of the league. 9 points, scoring 9 goals and conceding 2. I'm going to put them second, even though they are top. I think Liverpool have got off to a better start. Kind of on reflection and applying context to the situation, I think Manchester City have been incredible yet again this season, and Erling Haaland especially. And I've listened to a lot of interviews and Erling Haaland saying going into this season, it's the first season where he's not even carrying a knock, which is just, it's worrying signs for everyone. Already scoring 7 goals. They beat West Ham away 3-1. They beat Ipswich at home 4-1, and then they beat Chelsea away 2-0. It's been a very impressive start, and I think I'll be worried for a lot of sides because they have started exactly where they left off last season. Because if you look at some of the ways some of the players have been playing, your likes of your Erling Haaland, and the fact that Rodri's not even been playing, he's yet to come back, and your Fodens and things like that, it's an impressive start. And yeah, it's Pep Guardiola, they're a machine, you know exactly what you're going to get. So they're unreal. You can't say it's good because they're unbeaten. Even though it's expected, it's still unreal. Next, we have got Manchester United, who currently find themselves in 14th position in the league. They've got off to an absolutely dreadful start, so I'm going to put them in awful. It's not as bad as Everton, but I'm going to say that it's alongside Everton. Yes, they beat Fulham on the Friday night, that 1-0 win with that beautiful Xerxes goal, but it wasn't the most impressive and convincing wins, let's just say that. So you kind of thought, okay, they've got a win though, they didn't deserve it, this could be something to build on. But then they played against Brighton away and got absolutely demolished, and then the same again against Liverpool. It's been very worrying signs, and there's a lot of media and a lot of people already throwing questions and throwing shade towards Erik ten Hag, because he's finally got his signings. He spent over 600 million since he was appointed, so it's worrying signs for them because he's still really yet to get them playing. I kind of still can't work out what they're doing. Players like Ahmed Diallo, I thought had really got off to a good start and then was dropped on the weekend. I don't really get it. I'm still yet to really understand what they're trying to do this season. So I think it's been an awful start, and they really need to sort it out. The next game's against Southampton, and then Palace, and then Tottenham. So they've got 2 games there where they can get some good results. Hopefully, you'd like to think if you're a Man United fan, but I wouldn't put it past them with the way they've been playing. They've not been convincing at all, and yet not good at all. Man United fans understandably aren't happy. Next, we've got Newcastle, who find themselves in 5th in the league. 2 wins, 1 draw. It's been a pretty decent start, I'd say. I think Newcastle fans would be very happy going into the start of this season. You kind of look at the games they've had. They beat Tottenham at home. Yes, it probably didn't really deserve it, but it doesn't matter. They got the result. Drawing to Bournemouth and then beating Southampton with 10 men. So I'd say it's a very good start. I wouldn't say it's unreal, because the actual performance-wise, I wouldn't say has been the most impressive. Like the way they played against Southampton, they really held in. So they were quite, what's the word, potent in front of goals. They had a few chances and they really took their chances and defended very well against Southampton. And then Newcastle did the exact same then against Tottenham. They impressed defensively. I think they conceded a lot of chances, but I didn't really ever really look like conceding. It was a Dan Burn own goal. But yeah, I think it's been a good start to the season, all things considering, especially looking at that transfer window, which I thought they had a really poor transfer window. Next, in ninth spot, we have got Nottingham Forest, a side that have kind of gone under the radar. A lot of people really predicted them to get relegated. They drew against the Wolves 1-1. They then beat Southampton. And then drew against Bournemouth. So the games like against your Bournemouths, your games against your Southamptons, your games against the Wolves, so those are the sides that are going to be in and around you. So you cannot lose those games. And the fact that the drawing isn't a bad sign. You would want to beat Wolves and Nottingham, and Bournemouth, considering both those games you're at home. But that win against Southampton was impressive because those are the kind of wins that you have to get. You physically cannot lose those games, and you'll be in a relegation battle. So I think it's been an okay start. I don't think it's been awful. I don't think it's been great because they have had some nice fixtures, and I think though they've really they've done it exactly what's expected. Maybe they'd want a few more points. Maybe you'd want a couple of wins in there. Really, kind of looking at those games, I think they've been quite nice. And the fact that the sides that they've been playing, the ones that have been like tests really in and around them, have been at home. So you'd really expect them to draw. Next, we've got Southampton, and Southampton for me straight away are in awful alongside Everton and Manchester United. It's not been a great start for them at all, conceding 5 goals and only scoring 1, and that was on the weekend right at the very end. I think it was the 94th minute. It's not been good so far for Southampton, and I feel like it's a very lazy narrative to suggest this, but it's very similar to Burnley coming up and just kind of not respecting teams, kind of being a bit naive, maybe even arrogant with the way they're playing out on the back. I spoke about this on another video on my channel. If you go check it out, it's called My Problem with Southampton. It's the way they've been playing and the way they've been trying to pass out from the back. They just lead. There's so many errors to goals, especially against that Brentford game. If you watched the 3 goals that Brentford scored, were all direct errors. So yeah, it's not been the most impressive, and they've not really had any massively difficult games. Like they lost to Newcastle away. Yeah, it's not the easiest, but they haven't played any of the real big boys. Then they lost to Nottingham Forest away. Then they lost to Brentford. They lost to Southampton lost to Nottingham Forest at home, and then they lost to Brentford away. It's not been the most difficult of starts, so yeah, worrying signs for them, and they really need to sort it out. Maybe kind of really think about the way they're playing. Maybe rather than being so proactive, might maybe be a little bit more reactive and think about it. Maybe changing the passages of play and patterns. Maybe going long every now and then, hitting the channels for Ben Brereton, Diaz, and Armstrong to kind of get in behind. So I'd say it's been an awful start for them. Next, we've got Tottenham Hotspur. Now, Tottenham Hotspur is a really weird one. The fans are so split down the middle. If you read online, a lot of fans are really, really unhappy, and then some fans are saying just give them a bit of chance. Yes, they absolutely demolished Everton, but I don't think there's actually too much to read into that. The first game of the season away at Leicester, they were impressive. I think it was a Monday night game. They were impressive in the first half, but the second half they really just didn't take their chances, and that's a worrying sign. I know with Solanke being injured, but they don't look at that. What's the word? They've got no conviction in front of goal. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it as a whole. They lost as well away to Newcastle. It's a good performance, and they have all the ball, they have all the chances, but they just don't look like scoring. So I'm going to say it's been a poor start, especially with the amount of money they've spent and kind of the signings they've got in. So I kind of look at it as a whole, and I just think it's not been a great start. I think as time will tell, especially in the Arsenal, the North London derby game they're coming up, and then they've got Brentford, and then they've got Man United, so I think, and then Brighton, and then West Ham. So they've got a difficult run coming up. So I think these first 3 games been a good sign for them, but it's still time to change. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's awful, but I wouldn't say it's been great, so I'd put them in poor. Next, we've got West Ham, who currently find themselves 13th in the league. Now, West Ham's games so far this season, they've played against Manchester City, which you can just write it off. They beat Crystal Palace, which is expected, and then they lost to Aston Villa, first game of the season. Now, applying context to it, it's Lopetegui's first game, that game against Aston Villa, but that's the side that they want to be competing with, and they did compete, and they had a lot of chances towards the end of that game. They probably should have got a result. I think they really should have got the draw. Personally, the game against Manchester City, they had their chances again. They create chances, and that's a good sign for them. And then they beat Crystal Palace quite convincingly away. So I think it's been an okay start to the season. I think it's been a difficult start playing against the likes of Villa and Manchester City so early on. So I think time will tell how they'll do, but I don't think they've been too poor. I think they've been a lot more progressive and a lot more exciting to watch. So I think that's a good sign for West Ham fans. And the next games that they've got Fulham, Chelsea, Brentford, Ipswich, Tottenham, Man United, Forest, and then Everton. So I think they've got a few good games coming up now where they can kind of get a bit of momentum, and time will really tell how they're doing. But so far, okay signs. I don't think they've been incredible. I think they've been good, but the kind of results don't really reflect that. So the final side we're going to be doing is Wolverhampton Wanderers, who find themselves currently in the relegation zone in 18th spot. Not been the best of starts for the season for them. They've got a draw away at Nottingham Forest, which, as I said, going away to Forest is not easy, and getting a draw there, I think, is a solid result. especially considering they've gone 1-0 down. But then they lost to Chelsea 6-2 and they got absolutely battered. And I mean battered, but they also lost 2-0 to Arsenal as well. It's not been the nicest of starts for them. So I'm going to say poor, but I don't think it's awful because, again, it's not been an easy start. Kind of the fixtures coming up, time will tell. Going at home, you've got at home to Newcastle. Then you've got Aston Villa, then Liverpool, and then after that, finally, then they'll play the likes of Brentfords and your Palaces and your Southamptons and your Fulham. But I did see a stat that it is officially the hardest start by any side ever that Opta have got. But it's been a really difficult start for them. So I'm going to just put them in poor, but I do think maybe a result against Nottingham Forest would have put them into a good because, as you said, that was probably been their only game where you'd expect them to get any points so far this season. But that is it. That is my ranking of the Premier League's team start to the season. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Please let me know what you guys think. Please smash the like button. Please subscribe because, yeah, I'm hoping that you guys will tell me what you think of the start and if you agree or if you disagree. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please smash the like button. Please subscribe. Click that notification bell as well for lots more daily football content. But thank you for watching. Bucket Sam over and out, and I'll see you guys soon.